In this video, we're going to slacken the head tube angle of a Giant Anthem from 69 degrees down to 67 degrees. So to achieve a 2-degree slacker head tube angle on the Giant Anthem, I looked at Works Composites headsets, and they actually provide headsets for a lot of the professional World Cup downhillers like Aaron Gwin and several others. So I knew that it was a good product, especially if these riders are using this product and they're not even sponsored by them. So I actually emailed them to help, have them help me figure out which one to buy for the Giant Anthem, and they were really responsive. Great company. They're out of the UK, so shipping was a little longer than if it was in the States or your country, but it wasn't very long at all. It got to me very quickly for coming all the way across the pond there.
All right, so this is what I ordered from Works Components. This is the headset with the cups, so I can run 2 degrees more slack on my Anthem. So pull this out. See here. So you can see this is the upper cup with the bearing in it. So this part's going to stick up above the actual top tube and head tube there. So it's going to sit above it. This is the bottom part. This is going to sit in the bottom, and it's going to allow me to run my fork at a 2-degree slack angle. So it's going to go from a 69 degree to a 67 degree.
Yeah, all you have to do is you take your stock headset bearing cups and you knock them out. You can use like a headset tool, to remove it. And once you tap out those cups, then you just press in your new cups. Now, with the new cups, you have to press them in just right where they're lined up. And they have a little notch that shows you where to line them up. And what I did, I actually took the frame and I hung it upside down with one of my repair stands, and I ran a plumb bob down it to get it just right center with the line, and I made a little mark so that way I could line up the marks on my top tube with the cup from the Works Composites headset. And once you get it lined up, then you just press it in with a press. First time I did it, actually it was not perfect, so I had to actually pop out the Works Composites headset, and then I had to press it in again to get it just right. But after I got it just right, that time pressed it in, there's no issues with it at all. So it does take a little bit of time and a little bit of patience, but it's not very hard at all. Now, after you have the cups all lined up, you basically just install your fork just like you would with any normal headset. Now, what I really like about the Works Composites headset is most of the adjustment is actually done on the top of the head tube instead of on the bottom. Several companies will actually make the bottom thicker to be able to have like a gimbal or something in there to be able to move the fork to change the angle. Well, Works Composites, I like what they did because they do it all at the top of the headset or the head tube. And the Giant Anthem, it has a short head tube anyway for most mountain bikes, so just that 10 millimeter of extra height was not a big issue going with the Anthem. With the Works Composite, now some frames may already be taller, so if you do this to your bike, you have to look at and make sure your steer tube is long enough, because it is going to make that a little taller on the top of your head tube. So essentially you need 10 more millimeter on your steer tube to run this headset. But so what it does is it adds about 10 millimeter more stack. It also will move your fork back a little bit, so therefore it shortens your reach. I believe it was around 5 millimeters, so it's not a huge amount. Most people probably won't even notice the difference when you do change that, but it does change those two things. Okay, so a few geometry changes that happens when you do this. So obviously we're changing our head tube angle from a 69 degree down to a 67 degree. So what that does with your bike is it actually lowers the front end just a hair. All right, so it's going to lower the front end of your bike just a little bit. And it actually will steepen your seat tube angle just a little bit as well. So the Anthem has a 73.5 degree seat tube angle. It brings it up to about a 74 degree. So it brings it up a little steeper, which I actually prefer. It also lowers your bottom bracket just a little bit. It lowers it about 3 millimeters. So it's not a lot, but it is just a little bit. Also as well, it actually increases the front center of your bike about 24 millimeters. So it actually puts more front tire in front of you, which I prefer. So all these changes that I did, you may not like any of these on your bike, but I preferred them. I wanted the steeper seat tube angle. I wanted the bottom bracket to be a little lower because I run 170 cranks anyway. So yeah, let's go see how it actually performed on the trail. So the biggest benefit right off the bat is obviously descending. Going downhill with a 67-degree head tube angle is awesome. You don't have the fear of going over the bars. Also, as far as your weight in the wheelbase, you're a little bit further back in the wheelbase because the front fork is further out in front of you. The front wheel, I should say, is further out in front of you. So therefore, you have more wheel in front of you, less likely to go over the bars on steep descents. Now, even on the flat terrain, I really liked it because when you're putting down a lot of power, like on an XC bike, you're carrying a lot of speed. And so you have obstacles coming up and everything. That slacker head tube angle, you know, once again, with more wheel in front of you, that inspired confidence. And, you know, jumping over log or rocks, or whatever it may be that you may come up on really fast, you didn't have to worry as far as going over the bars or anything, or you know, the front end all of a sudden, you know, jumping out from under you, or you know, feeling shifty or darty or anything like that. So it added some stability to the bike at speed, and that is really beneficial on a bike like this. Another huge benefit to this is actually it allows the fork to perform better. And what I mean by that is, you know, the old days we had a steep you know, head tube angle. So when you would hit an obstacle, you know, the fork would bend this way actually. I mean, you'd still have some suspension that would work, but it was bending this way. So as we went slacker, what's better is it improves that angle of attack from the obstacle to the fork. So the fork, when it hits it, the fork will actually, it hits in the direction that it needs to move. And when it does that, what that does is it allows for small bump compliance. Because instead of the fork pushing against the bushings, it's actually the suspension that's actually absorbing the hits instead of the fork flexing this way. So with a slacker head tube angle, you know, you get that really nice small bump compliance. And then also too, you know, it just helps with that angle of attack with those obstacles. So, you know, you can get that front wheel up over an obstacle a little bit better. And then when you hit things at speed, especially if it's a smaller, you know, log or rock or something like that, it kind of absorbs it and gets you over it without kind of slowing you down and stopping you. So that is, in my opinion, probably the best thing of this setup, is actually having that angle of attack that the fork will actually use its suspension a lot more efficiently than it did in the past. Okay, so how does it do climbing? And I was a little worried about this because a lot of people say, you know, if you run a slacker head tube angle when you're climbing, it's going to make your front wheel unweighted and make it where you can't, you know, keep the front wheel down. But with this setup, I didn't have that issue. And I think most of the time that issue is because a lot of people that go slacker, usually they go slacker because they put a longer travel fork. And when you put a longer travel fork on your bike, it raises that head tube taller, it raises your bottom bracket, and it slackens that seat tube angle. But with this head tube angle, what it did was actually it did all the opposite. It lowered the bottom bracket, it made the seat tube steeper. So on climbs, it felt phenomenal. There's no, you know, front wheel wandering on you or anything like that. I was a little bit worried about the floppy feeling that you get with sometimes a slacker head tube angle. It did have that a little bit, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And actually I used that in handling and going around obstacles. Once you get used to it, it's very predictable. And as far as all the other benefits, if that's the one negative, then by far the 67-degree head tube angle is the way to go. Now my experience with this, I used this up in the mountains a couple of times. I used it up in Guntersville, Alabama, some really steep trails on in that state park. It was flawless in that area. I also did a race, the Skyway Epic, used the same headset there. It was wonderful, worked perfect. Now I did have a mishap where flying down a hill about 25 miles an hour, there was a huge hole, washout that I didn't see, came up on it too fast, went over the bars. I hit it really hard, and you know, I really was thinking something's going to be broken, it's going to be messed up, but you know, got back on the bike, kept racing, finished the race, and I won the race thanks to some luck. The guy winning actually had a flat tire. So but you know, as far as the headset, It didn't knock loose. There was no issues with it. It was not messed up whatsoever, and it was silent afterwards. So so it took a huge hit, and there was no issues. I mean, they use them for World Cup races, so obviously they're going to be a tough product. All right, so many of those headsets out there that change the angles, you hear reviews and people having issues with them creaking, making loud noises. I've been using this headset for about 4 months now, and it has been silent. No sounds at all, no creaking, no nothing. And I think it's because of the headset cups, the way they're made. They're not, some of the other brands, they use like a gimbal to be able to change the head tube angle, and then you get any kind of dirt in there. If it gets dry, it'll creak. But this has been dead silent. No issues whatsoever as far as sound. The headset hasn't come loose or anything, and it's been working perfectly. So do I recommend this upgrade for the Giant Anthem? Yes, definitely. I don't know if you know, but Specialized, the new Epic that has come out, they've actually made a 67-degree head tube angle on that bike. I'm sure that a lot of companies will now follow suit because of that. And putting the 67-degree head tube angle on the Anthem is amazing. It definitely changes the bike, makes it more trail worthy, I guess you could say, makes it where you descend without being fearful of going over the bars, and it makes the bike more fun and safer, and faster, because obviously you can carry more speed. So yes, definitely, if you can, upgrade to this headset. I paid, I think it was about $100 for it, and it was definitely worth the upgrade. Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed that, smash that like button. Also share it with any of your friends who have Anthems, and if you can, subscribe to the channel. That helps out tremendously. Now, you have a great day. We'll see you in the next video.